Welcome to our first online follow-up session for the Bringing Digital Learning into the History Classroom series. I'm here, Natasha Scott from the BPS History and Social Studies Department, and joining us we have Ed Considine. I'll let him introduce himself over there.
Hi all, thank you Natasha for welcoming me. I'm glad to be here, folks. I look forward to this session and the ones coming next. Thank you.
Before we start jumping into our Google Classroom, we're just going to do a little bit of a screen share and go over our brief agenda for today, and then we'll jump right in and get started. Okay, so also while you're getting comfortable, there is a Q&A section. So if you look at the top of your screen, there is an apps launcher, which looks like a little array with squares. And if you click on the Q&A, you can go ahead and submit questions as they come up. Okay, and right now I'm going to share my screen so that we can look at the presentation together. And all of these items are sitting in the Google Classroom, so you can follow along there or just follow along live. So today's agenda, we're going to give brief introductions. Ed is going to walk us through and review some of the digital literacies that we want to make sure that we're focusing and developing with our students. We'll review some of the resources from JFK Library Museum, and then I'll go through and walk you through the Google Classroom activities that you'll be doing today, and then we'll release you and you'll go ahead and get some independent work time. These follow-up sessions, we really want to make sure that we're providing you time to actually do the work, not spend a whole hour talking at you and not giving you the time to practice. So I'm going to turn it over to Ed, who is going to walk us through the digital literacies.
Thank you, Natasha. And I just want to say, folks, I was sorry to have missed the session at the JFK Library last week. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there. Natasha and Nick and other people filled me in on what happened there. I've been looking at the resources, and I'm very excited to sort of hear your take on the types of resources and types of learning activities you think are available through using the digital libraries at the JFK. So I'm going to share my screen and just talk a little bit about digital literacies. I think you can all see my screen coming in. And what I want to just stress is that when we talk about digital literacies and digital learning in general, we're not talking about digital tools. We're talking about the big picture items. And it's important to keep these things in mind because, as we know, tools change. Technology comes and goes with our students and in our lives. So it's important that we sort of keep our eye on the prize and think about digital literacies as something that sort of combines all the literacies that we have in our content areas. But we devised this graphic on the digital learning team to sort of express the trajectory of how we can help build student digital literacies, but also this can be applied to adult learners as well. First, I just want to mention functional technology skills, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, but we do need to know how to use specific tools and how to do certain things with technology. So when we do training, we do have our eyes on the how-tos. But the important questions, once we're beyond the hows, is the why. And helping students develop answers to why would we use a particular technology, why we would involve ourselves with a particular online activity is really helps us start to bridge the gap between functional and strategic digital literacies. When we get to the strategic parts, it's not about how to, it's about being able to do things and rationalize why we're doing them. Online collaboration, evaluating web resources, teaching advanced research techniques, and responsible web citizenship are just among the few. Digital tools allow us to open up the world for our students and connecting with a global audience and to communicating and creating across multiple platforms. And so we are here to sort of help you work with your students on developing these digital literacies and help you also facilitate these in your own work and designing lessons for students. So Natasha, that's my take on digital literacies, and I look forward to talking more about them as we go through our series together.
Thank you, Ed, for walking us through those digital literacies. One of the important features of being digitally literate is knowing how to use resources, where to find resources, and then taking that information and applying it in the classroom. So we have JFK Library Museum and Resources that I'm going to go ahead and share the slide quickly. You'll also see, and actually before I share the slide, I'm actually going to go over and share the Google Classroom. In the Google Classroom, you'll see that we have some different warm-up activities that can be used to just introduce yourself, kind of activate your background knowledge, and allow you to take a minute to remember what we actually learned at the JFK Library last week. So I'm just going to go ahead and share the Google Classroom just so that you can see what it's going to look like. Okay, so you can see that we have 2 questions, just taking a minute to introduce yourself. Where do you teach? What grade level? Just so we know who is out there. And then our second question is, which part of the JFK Library and Museum website did you find useful in planning for your classroom instruction? Okay, so we're going to review some of the sessions now, but take a minute and kind of share what we found last week. Last week, when we were exploring the JFK Library resources online, we were looking at, sorry, I'm bouncing around screens, everybody. So when we were sharing our resources last week, some of the highlights of the website were just the overall website. Okay, then we had our exhibit pages, and we're actually going to walk through some of them now. So I'll bring us over there. We'll give it a minute to see. There we go. Want to make sure that it's syncing up with you guys so that you guys can actually see those elements. So I'm going to switch my screen. So the joy of Google Broadcast and sharing your screen is that you get the opportunity to go back and forth between your screens, kind of decide what you want your viewers to see. So right now we have our JFK website, okay, and their website is very, very intense. It has lots of amazing resources. Okay, remember when we went into the JFK section, the life of John F. Kennedy, there were some great biographical information. There was a biography picture book of John F. Kennedy. Okay, all of these, and that was actually available in a PDF and digitally. Okay. When we go into exhibits, we had the interactive exhibits, which many of us loved. We had our timelines. So our timelines allowed us to go through, look at different points in history, how JFK was connected to those different points. Okay, we had a couple of game challenges. One of our favorites, I'm scrolling all the way down to the bottom, the president's desk. That was one of our favorite elements from the interactive exhibit section, and that allowed us, we'll click on that, we'll review what that allowed us to do, but the president's desk allowed us to look at different sections of his desk, and you can hear that and hear the messaging, okay? And it has an audio section, an audio component as well. So it allows students and you as well to kind of go through and see what was interesting that he kept on his desk and what historical elements that you can find. Okay, so that's another great location to go back and to explore. Okay, and I'm going to go back out of this screen. There we go. Okay. So that was it within our interactive exhibits. We also, if you went ahead and looked in the JFK tab again, our media gallery. So the media gallery had collections of primary sources, both images, there were some letters scanned in, there's some audio, some other multimedia elements that are grouped into categories within the media gallery. So this is a great space if you're having your students do research, if you want to grab a couple of images that you want to make sure that your students kind of take the time to think about. Okay, this is a great section to go ahead and explore. You can see all the images pop up there. Great opportunity to let the kids have the chance to ask questions. Okay, do some unpacking of these images and do a visual discovery and see what they notice in these images and why they're significant in history. Okay? And so you can see the rest of those pieces when you're exploring, your classroom, and there's a nice link on our PowerPoint. We have all the links highlighted that Esther and Nina and Sam had shared with us at our last visit to the JFK Library. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through your independent work time, the different assignments that we're going to have you do while in classroom. That way it gives you a chance to get to know the resources a little bit more, find something that would be useful to your classroom, your instruction, your students, okay? And then take it to the next level and think about how you can do that digitally, how you can have your students interact with these resources, collaborate with their classmates, and create digitally rather than going old-fashioned pencil and paper. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we want to push our learning and teach our kids some new skills. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into our classroom. We're going to walk you through the assignments. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the Q&A section on the broadcast, or you can put it right into the classroom. And Ed and I are both here, and we'll be responding to your questions. And as questions and problems come up, we'll be happy to help problem solve for you. Okay, so in our Google Classroom, you can see, so 1 and 2 are very brief. They're just questions. Remember, the question allows your students or any participant in a Google Classroom to go ahead and respond to a question that you put out there. They can also reply to their classmates. And if you scroll down, your next assignment that you're working on independent is assignment number 2. This is where you're going to be watching a video. So I've included a YouTube video clip. You're going to be watching a short video, and then you're going to go ahead into a joint Google Doc, and everyone's going to have the chance and opportunity to edit this Google Doc with any successes and challenges and thoughts about integrating digital learning into their classroom. It could be something that you have found successful and has worked well, and it could be something that you're just thinking about and reflecting on now. And it's also important, I personally think it's also important to acknowledge the challenges when you're thinking about this. We know, Ed and I are sitting here, and we know it's not going to be an easy task to integrate these elements into your classroom, but it takes important planning, and it takes time. And when you take the time to plan and implement these different skills carefully into your classroom and into your instruction in a planful way, then it's really going to come out, providing the students with a great experience. Your assignment number 4, assignment number 4 is going to be creating an assignment for your students. Now I'm actually going to open up this document and give you an opportunity to look at some of the examples. So when we're creating an assignment for our students, just like how Ed and I create different learning experiences for you, during this series, we would like you to create the same opportunities for your students, really taking the time to think about how you want your students to work with this technology, okay, and work with these different elements. So what we've done is we've provided you some examples of ways that we've integrated technology. We use Padlet, so if you want to pose a question or have students collect images and share them into a Padlet form. So we've done that. We've also had another situation where it was another Google document where everyone had the access to edit on the document. You read an article, you took some quotes from that article, and then thought about why it was significant. In this situation, basically it's a Google Doc, and we've embedded a table into it. And then one of our early assignments was actually one of those assignments where each individual gets a copy. And Ed gave you a little background on the Great Depression, and you had to write a short paragraph of at least 3 things you'd like to explore deeper about the Great Depression. So that was a situation where he gave you a little bit of information, but really wanted to take the time what you as an individual learner were looking to explore. Okay, so those are 3 different styles. You can also think about if you want to integrate putting an image out there and having students do a visual discovery of an image, okay, what they notice in a photograph, what they notice in a series of photographs, okay. Feel free to get creative with this. And in the beginning, we did say to use images, graphic organizers, links. Now, the second to last line, I think, is one of the most important points in these directions. Challenge yourself to create an assignment that could be completed in one lesson or part of a lesson, not an entire research project. Okay? Think about a learning experience that you want your students to have. It does not have to be the whole hour-long block. It could be 5-10 minutes. They're analyzing an image. Okay? They're taking that time. Then they're going to go read some text or work independently or work in small groups. Okay? Think about how you want to have your students interact digitally in a meaningful way. Okay? So those are your assignments. And then your last assignment is which is number 5, is going to be your exit ticket. Ed and I really value your feedback, and we go through all the information and feedback on the exit ticket together, and we talk about how we're going to change and shift the following sessions so that we can make sure we're meeting the needs of the teachers who are participating. Okay, so please take the time to do that. We look forward to reading those. And I'm going to actually switch it over to Ed, and Ed is going to remind you about the About section in Classroom.
Thank you, Natasha. I love hearing Natasha talk about the opportunities that digital tools and engaging factors with media, like the rich resources that are available at the JFK, and sort of designing not elaborate research projects, but using the technology in an everyday way so that it meets the needs. Maybe something as simple as an exit ticket is something you're going to design using a Google form for a lesson with your students. But there's so many ways to work technology, digital learning into your lessons on a simple basis, not the larger picture research project. I'm going to share my screen and go to our classroom. 1 second here. I think I have my screen here. Are you seeing my classroom, Natasha? Okay. So in the Google Classroom, and as we're talking about you as learners, we're also trying to support you as educators as well, and using a tool like Google Classroom as a landing zone, we call it a landing zone. Some people call it a launching zone, where students can go to get assignments, find out about things, and then continue their learning, sort of take off from there. And one of the areas of Google Classroom that I think is worth spending a moment talking about is the About section. The About section in Google Classroom allows us to add resources. If you are a classroom teacher and you know that you create folders of things, maybe used to create them on your hard drive, on your desktop, and now you're creating them in Google Drive. So you have a folder someplace with all the content of including your class syllabus, maybe important readings, maybe some rubrics that you're using in your class, and classroom websites that you want them to go to. The About section is the place where you can add those resources to your classroom environment, so students can have easy access and they don't have to scroll through the stream and look for a particular resource that you already shared. But everything that you're doing in the class, every resource or website that you want students to use is listed in a folder in the About section. You can continue to add to the About section throughout your course if you find resources, but it is a sort of a place where you can hold these resources and have students be able to access them when they're not in a specific activity, but maybe they need to go back and do a reading or look at a syllabus or even look at a rubric. So that's what I have about the About section, Natasha. I think it's a great resource, and we're still exploring how it can be used effectively and how Google Classroom in general can be used effectively as a landing zone. Some people, remember that it's all housed in Google Drive too. So that folder that you're sharing in the About section is also something that can be shared out when the class ends and still be available for students once your particular course ends. And you can reuse that folder because it's a Google Drive folder. So it's a great integration between Google Classroom and Google Drive, and it just makes things so much more accessible for students and for yourself.
Thank you, Ed, for giving us that final overview of the About section. When you explore the About section in our classroom, what you're going to see is you'll see some interactive agenda. Those will have the links of all the different session items, but to make it easier so it doesn't just become one thing we despise is that running list of just links that drive people crazy. Okay, we want to make sure it's meaningful. So all of these documents in the interactive session agendas each session will have the links and to the documents, the resources that we use during that session only. Okay, and then you can go through, especially as you're participating in certain sessions and not other sessions, it'll give you the opportunity to kind of go through and go back to the resources that are useful to you. And one of the other elements that I've included inside our About section is our session essential websites. So I put in our BPS History Department website, which you can go ahead and explore. There's a whole great page of resources, and we're going to dive into more of those resources throughout the session. And then I did recently just put in some tips for Google Broadcast participants and adding an image to your Google profile. Those little details that step by step are helpful that Ed thinks I shouldn't add in, but I still do. So I hope that you're coming across this stuff. Now, if there's anything while you're working, so right now, Ed and I are going to say goodbye. We're going to give you the opportunity to go back, start working through the activities, but Ed and I are still here. We're still here to answer any questions that come up, to provide you with any support. If you're getting stuck anywhere, if you are not sure how to do something, just drop a comment into the Google Classroom, and Ed and I will be happy to go back and review it and to help you out, okay? So please feel free to use us. That's why we're here, okay? So again, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Ed so that Ed can close out as well, and we look forward to our session together.
Thanks, Natasha. I just want to reiterate what Natasha said about reaching out to us for support. Natasha is doing a great job demonstrating, sort of modeling the use of technology, especially Google Classroom and Hangouts on Air. So I want to encourage everybody to take that step as well. Google Hangouts is a great tool, and it's just there's so many innovative ways that you can use some of these tools with your students, with other colleagues, to start spreading the digital literacies in your small community. So I just want to say, don't hesitate to reach out during this broadcast, but also beyond the broadcast. We are available. I'm in chat a lot because I'm in an office, and I am available for consulting throughout the day. Please feel free to reach out and further your skills. Get the most out of this. We're here for you, and thank you for participating. Thanks, Natasha.
Thanks again, guys, and enjoy the activities. We'll be here to support you.